Okay, and give me just a moment here. And kabam. Hey y'all, and welcome. You're watching this later on YouTube. Don't forget, like, subscribe, bell icon. Anycubic Photon does amazing work, and all the rest of the oof. Really, you just couldn't wait, could you? Why do you not surprise me? Why do you never... Why does it never surprise me when you come in here right at the start of the show? Yes. Or no. Or both. But down you go. Alright. Now, for those who remember, back on Sunday, I went ahead and started work on like a large humanoid demon holding the larva and a big ol' axe and that sort of thing. Well, tonight, I finish it. Give me just a moment to catch up on a few things and let people know this is going. And let's see, go up here. Finishing the... And then over here, self-promotion, we-do. And let's mark that as red. I think I can go ahead and leave the place on lily pad. And I can close Discord. Okay, there we go. Now, like I said, we're going to be finishing up the demon sculpt tonight. As part of that, I'm going to be making a couple of alphas. Now, I confess, I kind of went the easy way around for making these alphas. Basically, I took Photoshop. I have a plugin called Filter Forge. Filter Forge is amazing. Anyway, I found several different interesting filters and rendered out what's called the bump map for most of them. And in one case, I just simply took the end results and flattened it as a grayscale. And I'm going to show you what I do with that in just a second here. In fact, okay, this is the end result of one of those filters, and I think it looks great as some kind of like shaggy effect. So the thing to remember is, as this is, it would be kind of... I don't think it's... Yeah, it's not perfectly... what's the word I'm looking for? It's not perfectly seamlessly tiled. So we have to add in kind of a gray or black border. Now this gray border is 35% gray. That means it's a medium dark gray. And what'll happen is, when I then bring it into ZBrush, I set the midtone to 3.5. And what that does, that means that everywhere this shade of gray is flat with the figure. Everywhere that's black will sink in a little. Everywhere that's white will stick up. So it will create this shaggy effect. On the other hand, if I want to just thicken it overall, use a black border. The black border, the default for an alpha is that black is the border. And so it defaults at a 0 midtone. This means it's all pulled out like fur. Now, like I said, there's this little shaggy one. There's this one, which is kind of more for an organic bloop type thing. Yes, that's the official term. This is the one I grayscaled and flattened. In fact, let me go ahead and make double sure that it's grayscaled. And then I've got small pebbled scales and large pebbled scales. And I'm probably going to do is I'm going to use that for this alpha. And the gray for the rest. Okay? Now, Control-Shift-S, and we save. Save this as a bitmap. Oh yeah, I can't yet. Because I have my image mode too many bits per channel for a bitmap. Okay. Save. Bitmap. We're going to call this Shaggy Alpha. Okay. Then we're going to bring this one up. Save. And we're going to make sure it goes to bitmap. Oh wait. Before I save this one, I have to change to the midtone gray. Bitmap. Let's call this Geiger Alpha. Now, each one of these was generated by a filter from FilterForge. This, Control-Shift-Save. Make it to a bitmap. Rough Hide Alpha. Control-Shift-Save. We'll call this one Small Pebble Scale. And this one BMP Large Pebble Scale. Okay. And literally that's all there is to making an alpha. Now the way I did this border, it's very simple. I'm going to do it in the opposite with white just to show you. I'm going to fill this entire layer with white. I currently have the size of this image, by the way, is 2048 by 2048. That's powers of 2. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Preferences, Guides, Grids, and Slices. Grid line every 512 pixels with one subdivision. And I made it kind of a pale pink. Then under View, Show Grid. There. Now the eraser is set to a 1600 sized brush with 100% hardness. Now the problem is I can't quite tell if I'm exactly in the center, so if I hit caps lock, it goes back to the crosshairs. I can then come down here, bang. Now you notice that it's a hard edge. Yeah, we don't really want that. So I go to Filter. Well, first of all, let me go ahead and turn off the grid, and then hit caps lock again to turn it back to a full-size brush, because we'll need it later. Now I go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and it's set to 115. Also changing. Now, and there we have it. It fades to white. Now, I actually did this and I duplicated because I wanted to make sure that we weren't getting close to the edges over here. And then hit Control-E to collapse it down. I have a medium dark gray, a black, and a white border. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit Control S because I've already saved it as sample alphas. Control W, and then Control Q. And if you recognize, here is our Daemon that we were working on. There's one thing I want to do before I really get started on Mr. D, and that's we're going to the subtool for the larva. And I'm going to start adding in a bit of detail from those things we just did. Before we do this, I'm going to go to Inflate, see Sub, reduce it quite a bit, and reduce the scale to about 30. Maybe a little bit less, let's say 20. And break out the tablet. Yay! Wacom is awesome. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to kind of exaggerate the peaks here by deflating between them. And that wasn't quite enough. So let's hit Control Z. I'm going to increase the intensity to 6. And then actually let's hide him and everything else so we can get a better view on this guy. And the reason we're doing this is we're kind of trying to exaggerate these ridges, because what we're about to do may minimize them a bit. And just okay, and then here we need to kind of... One thing I need to do is I need to go ahead, if you look at this, you can see that I've really stretched the geometry here. So I need to go ahead, while we've got it going, and dynamesh it. There we go, much better. Now, and let's get these in here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of creature hide, that first one that I made. Not first one, one of the first. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to switch to drag dot, alpha, import, and we're going to bring in that rough hide. And then we're going to alpha, modify, mid value, and we want this at 35. There we go, mid value of 35. And actually, let's change this from drag dot to drag rect. And we're going to kind of just, as you can see, it doesn't do a lot. Let's increase the intensity a bit. And one thing I don't like is I forgot to turn on auto masking. Okay, so now when we come in from that, it's also, I'm not liking the look of how that works. So we're going to import a different one. We're going to import the Shaggy. Let's increase that intensity a bit. Oh, that's inflate. I need to be on standard, drag rect, and Shaggy Alpha. There we go. This is just to give it a bit of a texture. And we can get away with a bit more than that. That's a bit too much. So let's bring this down to 35. There we go. And then a little bit this way. And a little bit down here. And a little bit down here. Okay. And then we're going to give it just a bit this way. That gives it some character more than just a slime ball in his hand. Okay. I think that's good enough for now. And I think it's time to actually start working on our big guy here. With his butterfly horns. Hi, Mark! Yeah. Okay, now on him, actually, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to mask off that arm. Then we're going to masking and inverse visibility hide points. There. Actually, let's go ahead and hide most of this because we want to see what we're doing down here in the lower body. Okay, now we are now moving to the drapes, the demon drapes frame. Zoom out. And what we're going to do, we're going to take this, we're going to go back to inflate, we're going to go back to dots, we're going to turn off the alpha, then we're going to clay buildup. Back face mask on. And then we're changing the alpha to alpha 1. What we're going to do first, we're going to deformation and we're going to polish it a bit because this is a little bit too hard edged for what we need. How's the polygon count? Okay, so not too bad. Let's start off with a Dynamesh. Okay, that's good enough. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off by giving it a little bit of wrinkly bits here. Okay. Just to give it a bit of a loop. And then let's go to sub, and we're going to kind of follow along the direction that we had just then. Alright, now we're going to slash. We're going to, actually, forgot to turn that on. We're going to go ahead and go up to stroke. Under lazy mouse, turn off lazy mouse, bring that intensity down to about 14. We're going to come under. Actually, that's a bit too high because, yeah, the size of the... Then we're going to add and drop it down to 9 or 8. There we go. We're going to very carefully, very gently come under at the bottom of these wrinkly bits. And then come around under here and here. And on this one, we're just going to kind of focus here. Okay. That's our waistcloth, but now we need to make the belt that waistcloth attaches to. And the best way is to extract it from the body. Meanwhile, let me go ahead and just sip of my soda. Now, we're going to go from slash over to standard and go back to these. And I hit Control and increase the focal shift to -100 because we're getting ready to draw on where the belt is. Going to give him kind of a classic Games Workshop style belt, you know, the wrestling championship belt type thing, simply because it's more fun that way. And we're going to bring that up and around. Bring it up, back down, and then we're going to come around here. And connect there. And then we go extract, accept. Now the reason why I went ahead and took that 0.2 despite it being so remarkably large is because this lets us make room for the bottom of the waistcloth that comes underneath when we sculpt that in. Now, before we do anything else with this, we need to go to Polygroups and Auto Group. The reason for that is because as things stand, there's thigh groups and hip groups and waist groups all blending in. But now, it's one group. What we're doing next is we're going to add in trim on this thing. So we go to curve. Was it curve? No, it was curve functions and frame mesh. Now, this gives us the curves around all the sharp edges. We go from there to curve tube. Make sure we've got it a bit smaller than that. It's still a bit large. Let's shrink that down to 4. And yeah. And then subtool split unmasked parts. Done that one. Split unmasked parts. And then we zoom in really close. I can click that, and now click in an empty spot, and now there's no more of those. So we're going to merge the two seams, and we're going to geometry. We're going to actually no, let's not go to geometry. Let's go to deformation first and polish 100 a few times. No. There we go. Now, on the subtools, we're going back to that itself, and we're going to Dynamesh it at 256. Because that helps us get rid of some of the detailing in the middle that we don't necessarily need. And we're going to use the stylus for this, because we don't need the full power. We just want more, bring it around. And that's our belt. And now we're going to the Daemon body. Do that and bring it back. We're going to come back to the belt to decorate it after we have finished with the body. Now, I want to start working on that head. Okay. One of the first things I'm doing is I'm going to the slash tool, shrinking it a bit, and switching to Z sub with a 15 or 16. And I'm going to reinforce the line around the eye, just to make sure we don't lose it on the next few mesh smooths, or Dynameshes. Because we want that to be nice and sharp. Okay. We're also going to kind of come in here and smooth out this area of the mouth. Now, the next thing is we're going to move. And we want the full move, not the move topological, and make it a little bit bigger. Go from as close to the side as we can, and we're going to kind of pull out the mouth. And then we're going to shrink it down a bit and make the snarl a bit more snarly. It also means bringing this up a bit. Now, we go back to slash, and we're going to, that was move, slash, and we're going to kind of just draw in the lines of the face. Once again, we're exaggerating them a bit to make sure that they come out well when they print. That includes defining the edge of the lip here. And split of the mouth here. Okay. We're going to go to inflate, go back to add, reduce the intensity, and start inflating on top of the brow here just to give it some depth because it was being a little bit flat and pointy. And smooth it out a little bit. And then go back to move, because what we're going to do is we're going to bring this down a bit. And move topological just to give it a little bit of a Alright, and then going back to slash, what we're going to do is we're going to start cutting in some further details about the brow and the forehead. And then coming up this way and back. And then we're going to cut in where the corner of the jaw is. Actually, hold on just a second. I gotta take a pause real quick. Okay, back. Sorry about that. And we're working on cutting in details for the head. Now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit less intense. And we're going to come down center. Going to give him a more of an ape-like look to him. And then I'm coming over to the ear. I'm going to smooth it out. Why? Because I'm going to cut in new details for those ears. Okay. Now shrink it. Increase the intensity again. And we're going to start off by coming around this way and then back in. Around this way and then back in. Then using inflate, kind of deflate in here, and then smooth it. Gives us that little depression area. Do the same thing in here. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually, go ahead and smooth that. With inflate back to add, and a bit larger, I'm going to reinforce this one area where the horn is. So instead of earlobes, he's got horn anchor. And then go back to slash, and it's in there, and go in there. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's kind of just a dip in and a dip in, just to give it a little bit more detail. Now we're going to make it a lot larger and a lot weaker. Excuse me. And we're going to kind of emphasize behind that part of the lip and then down that way. Let's do it this way. Okay. And then we're going to go underneath the lip here. Then back to inflate. Shrink it a bit. Up there. And we're going to exaggerate the bottom lip. Kind of like how we do on orcs. And then just a little bit of smoothing. Okay, now. Whoa. Let's reduce that quite a bit. Okay, frame out. Okay, we need to go ahead and last thing to do is the nostrils. And the way we're going to do them is let's grab that snout. Pull it forward a little. Just to give us room to work, and covering that out. We're going to slash again. We're going to shrink down. And we're going to increase the intensity quite a bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down like that. And that's too far over. Okay, we got to come over. And there. Now we're going to shrink it and reduce the intensity quite a bit and come down the center of the nose. And just a light smoothing. Now I'm going to inflate, subtract, reduce a lot, and reduce the size quite a bit. And use this to kind of exaggerate the nostril on both sides. And just kind of smooth out the base where it meets the teeth. Now, frame out, and we have the basic facial detail. But that's far, far, far from being anywhere near done with that critter. Okay. Next up is we're going to mask on. Oh, this is what I need. Yeah, there we go. We're going to mask on a bit of the back of each forearm. And actually, let's bring it down to the back of the hand. Okay. And we're going to do it back here too. And then we're also going to add it onto the shoulders and the back. You'll see why in just a minute. These are going to be almost shells. Not actual clothing, but part of its body. Okay. We're also going to add it to the outside of the thighs. Outside and front. A bit of the front. Alright, now despite it not actually being clothing, we're now going to go ahead and extract it at 0.01. Extract, accept, draw. Then we're going to select, we'll make sure that we have our okay, that's what I thought. We're going to delete it. And erase that belt. I knew I'd forgot something. Now, let's go ahead and redo the thigh pieces that we were wanting to do. Okay, there we go. Now we extract it out. Draw, click on him and draw. Now with these, we're going to do the same thing that we did with his belt, but it's going to be slightly different. We're going to go into Polygroups, Auto Groups, because like at the very least we've got like the hand and forearm on these two. Then we're going back up to Stroke, and we're going to Frame Mesh. Then we're going to hide everything else except for these things. Go to Curve Tube, and we're going to bring the draw size down quite a bit. We're talking like 9. There we go. And that'll be there. Split unmasked parts. There. Split. There. And that turns off all those. Now that we've done that, we're going to turn him back on. Then we're going to merge down all of these until they have all of the loops. Geometry and subdivide a couple times. And then we're going to merge down this. And what's going to happen now is with geometry, we're going to Dynamesh at 256. This should give us a nice blend potential. And it did. Now under deformation, we're going to polish 5. 50. 100. There we go. No, that's too many. There we go. And what we're going to do with this, let's go ahead and make this visible. We're going to make this pretty heavily rocky. So in order to do this properly, we need to go ahead and go into Z plugin, UV Master, enable control painting, attract, and then attract from ambient occlusion. And then turn off symmetry and unwrap. We click flatten, and we can see, and we ignore anything that's not part of this. This is how it flattened out for UV mapping. So we're going to go back to unflatten. We're going to leave that. We're not going to do any dynameshing to it right now. Okay? We are going to change this back to Sculpt E. Now, from here, we're going to Geometry. We're going to not dynamesh it. We want to keep the... We're going to subdivide it until it's around, yeah, a couple million. There we go. Delete lower. Frame. Now, before we can do anything else, I need to pop back over here, because I'm going to be opening a couple programs, and I'm not a fan of doing that while I've got the broadcast going. So you're not that keen on UV Master? It's literally select it. Attract from ambient occlusion, unwrap. Bing, you're done. It really only works if it's something that you don't need a specific orientation with. Okay? Because with something like this is more organic. This is kind of random. With something like chainmail or scale mail or manufactured armors, you need that extra oomph of making sure it's aligned right. And you really can't do that with UV Master. But for something like this that is going to be completely organic with a more organic texture to it, it's going to be a lot easier. Yeah, so while I'm here, I may as well put in another can into my greatest sprint of all time. Alright. Now, next up will be... Let's pop it over. This is Photoshop. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop open an empty layer, filter, and this is Filter Forge. Filter Forge is amazing. And what I'm going to go for here let's see. What do we got that I can put on here? Elephant skin. Bump map. No, because it's got the white in the background. There we go. And we're going to just hit a random variation and click on Seamless Tiling. And then we click Apply. That was quick. Control-Shift-L. Actually, let's do it this way. Levels. We bring this up to the bottom of the black, so the darkest is black. Then we bring this down to the brightest, so the brightest is white. And then bring this up just a little to make sure that the separation between them is a little bit better. Click OK. Now, as we can see, there is... Oh, that was too far. There is a little bit of pebbling. First, Control-Shift-U to make sure it's perfectly flattened and desaturated. Then Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, 1 pixel. And that blends it in a little bit better. And we're going to save this as a bitmap, BMP. And we're going to call it plate text. Okay. Now I want to check one thing on here, and that's the average color of the separations. So I go over here to drop. I click here. And that comes out to 58%. Okay, that tells me what I need to know. Now, let's go back to ZBrush. Bing! Now, what we're going to do from here is we're going to surface noise, just like I was making it into chainmail. Click on UV, Alpha, and we're going to select this plate text. Open. We then mix basic noise to 0. Strength. That'll be about how it ends up looking. Gives it more of a almost a turtle shell look to those pieces. So we're going to go ahead and say OK. And then mask by noise. And then finally, not deformate. First thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract or inflate a -3. There, -7. Then masking, and we're going to invert, and then we're going to inflate. And there we go. That's our kind of scaly plates. We are going to end up blending this into the skin in some areas. But we're also going to do something else. I'm going to zoom in and look at the size. Most of these, we can make the brush a little bit bigger. Okay, then we're going to go from here to the snake hook. We're going to grab some of these over here. All right, too small. No, it's still that's too big. We're going to drop it down by 1. And just a couple of these we're going to make into spikes. And then drop this down a couple and kind of pull out some bits from the hand. And this is just going to give us a little bit of a spiky look to these armored areas. And it's 9 o'clock. We are halfway through tonight's show. Zoom in, and you'll notice right here it's kind of blended in. That's not a big deal. I'm going to pull them out. Let's get some of these spikes going. And now, bring these spikes back out from here. And then here. No. Frame out a little bit. Okay. Now, we're going to add some to the shoulders, but not to the back or calf or thighs. That's good enough. Just a 3. Just enough to kind of get that evil. Evil. Yes. Look to it. Okay. There we go. Now we frame back out. And we go up to subtool. We're going to merge down. And then change the Dynamesh to 1280. And then okay, there we go. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to change the intensity of the blur back to 100. We're going to shrink the mouse just about there. What? Smooth valleys, there we go. There we go. Okay, and then coming from here. I need to do one other thing. There we go, that's what I need. Okay, bring that around. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this more of a natural blend and make it clear that it's part of his body and not something he's wearing. And then right along here. And then we're going to kind of blend up around this way now because it's time to start working on the shoulder. And then we come around this way, blend up here and down. The idea here is that this is, you know, one part shell like a turtle or an ankylosaur, one part just built up bone and scutes more like an armadillo or a glyptodont. Okay. Like I said, the intent here is a nice blend so that it's clear it's him. He is the one that is causing the spikies and the bumpies and the stuffs like that. Blend that out. Then come around up top. Let's see if I can get this looking right. he'll be a bit more intimidating than if he was just, wrinkly or all covered in scales. He'll look more armored, especially with the spiky bits. And let's come around this way. Let's do it from here. Yeah. Okay, frame out. And it does look a lot more organic. Oh, right here we need to kind of smooth it a bit just to... Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to come from here down. Okay. Once we've done this, it'll be time to start working on the rest of the skin, which will be less less heavily armored. It'll still be kind of unnatural, but it'll be less heavily armored. And then bring this across. Okay. Alright. I know what's happening down here. We got a little bit of a... This is where one of the UV seams was, despite me telling it to attract from the ambient occlusion, which left us with a bit of a gash there, and now we've got that fixed just by smoothing it out a bit. Okay, now the thigh pieces. Come down this way and back up just for the sake of having a pivot point. Pivot down. Let's move it over a bit and then come around this way. And then up and around. And just right here a few times until it blends. Yeah. And then we're going to come around from this way. Okay, now here, 1, 2. Okay, now. I don't know what hospital drama I'm hearing from the living room, but it's sounding a bit cliche. Okay, and then now from here. There we go. Okay. All of his shell pieces are now done. So the next question is, should we make him scaly or shaggy? Any suggestions? Let's go ahead and make it visible what he looks like now with everything all said and done. I'm thinking scaly because we've given him these big plates. Also, I see areas where we need to... Let's go ahead and move it to move. We're going to grab here and move it in under the belt. Same thing happens down here. Let's pull this down. And yeah, that's good. Actually, we need to grab here and bring it down a bit. There we go. Let's see, we've got the him as being a bit shaggy, so we're going to make him a bit scaly. We're going to do a Pebbled Hide because we're going to use that alpha that I created. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Standard, Drag Dot, and we're going to import first the large pebbled scale. And here we're going to go to Alpha, mid value 35. We're also going to make sure to turn on backface masking. And we're going to increase the draw size to about there, just to see. Oh, we're also going to turn off lazy mouse. Okay. Too big. Too big. Okay. Then we're going to change from that one to the small pebbled scales. And that's too strong, so we need to reduce the intensity down to about there. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up to there. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to make the mouse a bit bigger, so that we kind of blend it in a little bit better with the bottoms. And then we're going to shrink it. Actually, right now we need to switch to the... We're going to be switching back and forth as we go to fill in gaps and areas. We're also going to make them a lot weaker as we get smaller. Because we want the ones on the face to be barely visible. Okay. what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up with no actual full-size scales on the actual hands and flexible parts of the face because we want them to be independent, if you know what I mean. Now we're going to switch from here. We're going to the small pebble scale, make it bigger again. Zoom in. There. Okay, and then one in here. And then one down here. Since we're making them scaled, we don't need to worry about the underbelly bit. All right. There. And now we're going to shrink it. Ahem. And reduce the intensity. And before we get any further, we're going to have to detail the hands and feet. Okay. So we're going to go first to the slash tool. No, to the move tool. We're also going to make sure that our smoothing is at 100. Now, we are going to smooth out this area here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then bring this kind of down. And then in there. Make it more of a, there we go. And we're going to do that to this side. So that's okay. Then we're going to grab that section and kind of pull it out and down. And then in here and here. And then kind of blend it again. Smooth it. Okay. Now, hooves or taloned feet? I did Shaggy on, where is he? On Mr. Shaggy up here. But yeah, should I do taloned feet or hooves? Let me go ahead and real quick pop into here because I forgot something I need to turn on. And let's see. Okay. And while I'm waiting for this to turn on, I'm waiting for a response from you. Okay. While we're deciding what I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and go back here. I'm going to duplicate the tool. I'm going to hide everything else except for the new tool. And this I'm going to decimate to 5,000 points. You might be wondering why. It's because I'm going to be exporting this to 3D Studio Max, so later on I can make the teeth to fit into that grin. All I need is the general position of the mouth, which this will give me. Notice that it still kept some of those scales, and yet it's only 10,000 triangles. Okay, export as Daemon teeth mount. Turn him back on and select this guy, delete, okay. There we go. Now, we can give him hooves or we can give him taloned feet. So hooves or talons? I'm thinking with this, where this one toe is, talons might work better. The way we're going to do it, I'm going to go to inflate and make sure that it's about a third of the foot. 22 or 26, let's make it 24, split the difference. And I'm going to inflate. Oh, add, not subtract. Here, here, and here, and then here, here, and here. Now I go to slash, make it larger and weaker, just to give us our initial positioning. And give it a brief smooth, just a brief one. Then from 29 to 14, 5, 14. And we're going to kind of come down this way. Well, let's increase that quite a bit and turn on Lazy Mouse because it's... Yeah, we want to make sure we're going straight down this line. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to deal with turning those into talons at the tips. Now, we're going back to inflate, and we're moving over to the other foot. Now this one, the toes are bending a bit closer. We're going to add 1, 2, 3, 1. Slash. And then okay. Now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use the move tool. Let's make it move topological. There. That's a good talon. We're going to do something similar for the middle one. Just kind of bring it down and then out just a little bit. Going to kind of smooth it just a bit. We're going to come back in and swell out the bottom and sharpen the point where it reaches the tip of the foot, and then we're going to bring this down. Kind of pull out just a bit. Now we're going to we're going to increase it a lot, and we're going to pull the whole thing down because we're going to be flattening the foot so that it blends in better with the base that we've got. Now, there. And now make it bigger. Frame. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Okay. Now we're going back to slash tool. We're going to turn off lazy mouse. We're going to drop it down to 14. I'm saying 14. It could be anywhere from 12 to 16. And we're going to kind of draw around where the talons are. To help emphasize that these are sharp, pointy things coming out of the foot. That's too far. There we go. That's right there. Yeah. Okay, now we're going over to the other foot. And I wonder what good old Bob Dylan would think to know that the times they are changing was being used for a commercial. Doesn't matter what it's a commercial for. It's a commercial. Okay, let's go back to subtool and let's turn on the base just to see. Yeah, we're going to use the move tool to kind of manipulate the foot on the base. Grabbing down here and kind of pulling up a bit. There's more talon visible. We don't want all of it completely visible. Not on either foot because we want them to be blending into the base when it comes time. There. And that's our talon toes. Now we're going back to standard so that we have our scales. And just going to start adding in some scales down the leg here. So basically, once we get done with the calf, we're going to make them very, very small to the point where they may not even print. As it is, they may not print depending on your printer. But they still, they fade away. Same thing we're going to do on the wrists here, on the underside of the arms. Then we're going to detail the hands, because the hands, again, are not going to need that many scales. Okay. We're going to do the same thing to the back of the head. I'm going to pull up just a bit there. And there. All right. Now we're going back to inflate. We're going to change that intensity to 10. And then we're going to make this the size of the fingers, which actually, it's almost, yeah, that's about right. And we're going to add on our knuckles. And then we're going to add on a knuckle here and one here. I'm just going to kind of that there. Then inflate here just a bit. Okay. And then we're going to kind of inflate here and smooth it. That's the heel of the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, they just decided that fructose did not need to be listed as an ingredient on food labels. Ralph? What are you doing? No. Let go, little buddy. No. Go on. Shoot. Now we're going to add in our knuckles down the fingers. There and there. And smooth that out. Okay. Frame out. Shrink this, because we're now going to make the tendons in the front of the calves. Okay, now, current state of the critter. Let's take a look. I think all I got left to do is just add some detail to that belt. Okay. Like I said, almost every, let's zoom out a bit to about how big he'll be when printed, which is about here. You can see that most of the scales will get printed. But what'll happen is, even on the FDM printers that are not that great, it will develop the big scales, at least on the chest, and those will fade away. We'll get the shapes of the large plates. Now, next thing we got to do is we got to go to here, 3D Studio Max, and we're going to import meshes, pre-sculpt minis, broadcast minis, new, big Daemon, and Daemon teeth mount. All we're going to make with this is we're getting a general idea of where the mouth is. Also, let's go ahead, just for the sake of making it easier to see, and we're going to smooth it to level 1. That's all. And we're going to make a sphere. Bring it over here, and then we're going to inflate it, or make it a little bit bigger, a little bit too big. Alright, now we're going to delete this guy. convert to editable poly, export selected as wavefront OBJ, meshes, resculpt miniatures, broadcast miniatures, big Daemon, teethies. I know that doesn't look like teeth, but it is teeth, trust me. And then back to ZBrush. We are now going to append, no, not append, we're going to insert polymesh. And this polymesh is going to be the teethies. And the first thing we're going to do with this is we're going to geometry and subdivide it a bit. And then we're going to use the move tool to kind of drag it around here and make sure that we've got it. Yeah, it's going to fill most of the mouth. Excellent. So now we're going to dynamesh it one time, and then we're going to subdivide it quite a bit. And now the slash tool. And all we're going to do, we're just going to kind of give it a zigzag with the head. We're going to give one zig and a one zag with a transparent. Going to come up from here. Okay. And that gives us a really nasty, teethy grin. That is our Daemon. There's one problem with our Daemon. We're going to hide the base. We're going to merge them all down, except for the base. Oh wait, no, we got to do this first. Geometry, do. We need to add in some decorations as well as subdividing it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the slash tool. No, I'm going to use the orb cracks tool. And I'm going to make a crude set of sigils around the Elder Sign. For those who don't know, the Elder Sign actually comes from Lovecraft. This is not satanic, this is protection from the outer dark, which he has corrupted to be his own. Now, we're going to merge everything except the base. The reason being, I realized, alright, now we make the base visible. The reason being is we have this nice large base, and he's not quite as intimidating as I wanted him to be in terms of size. On this polymesh, we're going to import the painting practice figure. See, he's big, but he's more Goliath big, not, oh my god, he's going to rip my head off just by looking at me big. But we also don't want to make him size huge. So we want to make him bigger on his base. We're going to go to here. Under deformation, we're going to increase the size, looking down from the top with the transparency on, so we can compare, make sure that the feet stay on the base. And then there, that's a good bit scarier. And now that we're here, we're also going to use the move tool. We're going to move these feet back into position on the base, these toes at least. Or better yet, let's go to the base and rotate it a little. Okay, now back to him and go there. We're going to kind of pull these toes down into the rock, just to kind of represent them being blended in, you know, there. Okay, there we go. Now we frame out. And yeah, he's a good bit more intimidating than he was. Plus, it makes that larva he's holding about the size of a person, or what used to be a person. So we're going to delete the painting practice figure. And we're going to merge down. And now it's time for the final bits. Put the my graphics tablet up, and I'm going to zoom out just a little and draw. Control click, with the Dynamesh light on over here, lets it re-Dynamesh when you just control click. Okay, now the next thing is, he's kind of a big guy with kind of high detail. So we're going to go to 75K. That's 150,000 triangles when it's done. Let's turn off that. And let's hit 75K. I think I'll call him the Demon Brute. Need to add in some e-liquid. Okay. And I need reordering. Writing file to disk. $150,085 triangles. Okay. Let's go ahead and export this back into our big demon as Demonic Brute. And then just to give a little bit of a show, when I do movies, I go title image, fade in time and fade out time of 0, overlay image opacity of 0, modifiers I go to playback FPS of 24. And then let's get a full turntable of this guy. There we go. That's our turntable. That's our dude. Our Daemon. Our brutish monstrosity from the lower depths, holding a soul to torment as it does so. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I thought so. Yep. Hello, TJ. Yeah, Mark, I realized as I was asking the question that the way that back foot was bent, it was too high up. The feet were of different lengths. And that meant that the Talon feet would be better because they could bend in two different places, whereas hooves can't. And if I made them hooves, the right pastern would be a lot shorter than the left. Yeah, Kitty says, yeah, even though this is a different Kitty. This is Carlton, the one before is Ralph. You know, he has the collar, and Ralph likes jumping on the back. Well, Carlton likes jumping on the shoulder. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the Daemon Brute. And it's already 9:52, so we don't have a lot of time to talk this time. I will remind you that there will not be a show Thursday. Thursday is I've got a member of my gaming group who's moving out of town, and we're giving her a going away dinner. Sunday there will be at least one patron sculpt, at least one. Oh, come on, Fuzzbutt. I'm putting you down. There you go. And then from there it will be... I'm not sure what I'll do in the 8 p.m. show. And of course this one's been asleep through pretty much the entire show. Loop. There's the tail. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a show. It's close enough to the end time. It is close enough to Ragnarok. Or Endgame if you prefer. No, I'm not going to be able to see Endgame this weekend or next. Every theater in Memphis, as far as I know, is sold out for tickets for Endgame for this weekend and next. 3-1. Yeah. Meanwhile, let's give today's update on the Green Tide. And I'm at 78.37. It's slowing down considerably, guys. I'm thinking we just might not make it to the 12,000 mark. Oh well. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to do the usual and hold up my hand. Oh, and by the way, one of the things I'm going to be doing when the income gets here, I'm going to be trying watercolor paints, which means I need someone who has watercolors to let me know how the proportionate, well, actually, I need to use one of these, how the proportionate size and shape of watercolor bottles compares to the Vallejo bottles. Because I need to know if I need to change the STLs for my paint racks. As it is, I'm probably going to need 4 more paint racks. Anyway, holding up the hand. And that's going to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, and a 1. I honestly don't know what to say right now. So, good night.